romance readers. I am Liz Donatelli. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance, the #1 romance novel talk show on YouTube. In today's book birthday show, I welcomed special guest co-host Kelly Reynolds, host of romance novel review podcast Boobies and Noobies. Kelly and I chatted with rom-com author SUZANNE Park about her new novel, So We Meet Again. And we play 2 truths and 1 lie. There were seriously too many good stories to cut, so this is a slightly longer episode. Enjoy, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hi, SUZANNE. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Hi, Kelly Reynolds, host of Boobies and Noobies podcast. Thank you for joining me here today as my special guest co-host.
Thank you so much, Liz Donatelli, host of Reader Seeks Romance here on YouTube.
Happy book birthday to you, SUZANNE. Congrats on the release of your rom-com, So We Meet Again.
Thank you so much. It's been a long journey, and I'm so glad we're finally at this day.
Happy book birthday to you. Happy book birthday to you. Happy book birthday, dear SUZANNE. Happy book birthday to you.
I read and thoroughly enjoyed So We Meet Again. I thought it was hilarious.
I agree. I thought it was very fun. I thought it was very funny. It had a great balance between real life stuff that's going on, but touching on it in a fun, lighthearted way, and the romance and the comedy and the family. I'm here for all of it.
So We Meet Again is about food and family, finding yourself and falling in love. And I like to think of it as a part coming of age story, part love story. And it follows a Korean American investment banker. She's an overworked banker on Wall Street. Her name is Jessica Kim, and she is laid off on Zoom. So she ends up moving back home into her childhood bedroom, back home in Tennessee with her family, her parents, and has to figure out like what is her next steps for career. And then while she's shopping at an Asian grocery store, she runs into her arch nemesis from middle school. His name is Daniel Choi, and he is Mr. Perfect in the most infuriating way possible. He's like good looking, he's smart, he's successful. One of the things that she figures out while she's at home is that maybe she wants to try out something to deal with cooking. And so she starts a Korean fusion cooking channel on YouTube. And it's basically taking meal kits and hacking them to add in Asian and Korean flavors. And while she's demonstrating how to hack like a skillet steak live, her mom does a walk-on cameo on the show, and then the whole thing goes viral because she steals the show. So then she has to decide if she's going to continue recording with her mom and potentially like having like the worst time ever. But if she does that, then it has more likelihood of being successful.
I found that while reading romance novels, a lot of the times the themes of food and family are often interwoven. Can you touch on the significance that food plays both in this story as well as, in your own personal life?
Yes. In a lot of Asian families, cooking and sharing food is an expression of love and affection. So just the actual fact that, the parents or the mother and father are actually cooking with the child is actually just in and of itself a way of showing affection. And so, when you read So We Meet Again, it's not like you're going, oh, these parents are loving and huggable. They're just not those types of parents. But you can see the fact that her mom keeps a full fridge, so her Jessie never goes hungry. And she's always well-meaning, and you can definitely sense that from the book. But as far as how food ties in, like whether it's a simple of cutting up fruit, like on after a long day at work or at home, just working at home, or um, at school, Asian parents, at least my parents and a lot of my friends' parents, just would make these like fruit platters just to like show that and leave them out at the door, like to be like, oh, here, eat something, because we don't want you to starve to death, and then they just like scamper away.
Even though So We Meet Again is the romantic comedy, you definitely don't shy away from heavier topics like racism, discrimination, gender inequality in the workplace. These are all things that we know far too well in 2021. And so my question is it important to you to touch on real issues in your work? And also what makes comedy a great medium to be able to do that?
The primary goal of this book was to be an entertaining read while having the social commentary running concurrently. And I think using comedy for something like this, sometimes some people are more receptive to it, to the message, when it's kind of packaged a little bit differently. And I think sometimes certain topics coming head on, straight on, has people going, oh, no, I don't want to hear this. I hear it all the time, or I just don't want to listen, and quit whining. And if you come at it a little differently, and then they're actually on board, and then they realize what you're doing, it becomes a different conversation. The reality is that this book originated from just a conversation that I had with some friends, female bankers that were working on Wall Street, and we were having dinner and drinks, and somehow they just, opened up to me, and they told me about all of the things that had happened to them over the years. A lot of them, they had kind of tuned out, and they were desensitized a bit, because it's just how they know Wall Street to be. Most of them just got used to it, or say that's just how it is. And it's just not acceptable. So as they're telling me these things, and they're ranging from microaggressions to flat out in your face macroaggressions, I knew when I left that dinner that day, it was just so unsettling. And I said, I think I know what I have to write about next.
Prior to writing, you were a stand-up comic. You were a finalist in the Oxygen Network's Girls Behaving Badly talent search and appeared on BET's Coming to the Stage. You won the Seattle Sierra Mist Comedy Competition and was a semi-finalist in NBC's Stand Up for Diversity showcase in San Francisco. So what prompted your career switch from comic to author?
I had wanted to be a humor writer right out of college, and I didn't know what that looked like. I Googled humor writer Korean American, and I got like one hit at the beginning that was like, the first hit, and it was a local stand-up comic in New York City where I lived at the time. So I arranged to meet up with her, and I would just want to hear all about her humor writing experience. She was like, oh, by the way, I do stand-up comedy. And I said, oh, that's great, but tell me more about the humor writing. She's like, oh, the humor writing is writing my jokes. I was like, wait, it says you're a performer. She's like, oh, I perform stand-up comedy. Everything that you could possibly think of as a job, it related to stand-up comedy. She brought it back. And I said, oh, okay, well, thank you for your time. She's like, I'm across the street is where I have my next set. And it's, in 10 minutes, would you like to watch me? And because I blocked off, a good chunk of the evening, I was like, well, I actually have nothing to do. And it's right across the street. And it's, how can I say no? So I go and follow her, and she does her 7-minute set, I think. And I just realized that I was like, oh, she's telling stories about being Korean American in Seattle and how bizarre her experiences have been. And the crowd is going along for the ride. And this whole time, I didn't even think to write about that experience. When I was thinking humor writing, I was thinking, I don't know, just like political commentary to social commentary, just like cartoons, who knew? But I didn't think like my own experience would be interesting to anybody. And then when I saw that happen, it just sort of like made me realize, oh, I could maybe do something like this. After the show, I told her, thank you for the time. And then she invited me to come back at another time to another comedy show. Everything got jumbled in that conversation because a month later, she calls and leaves a message. She said, I'll see you on my comedy show. You have 5 minutes. And so I call her back and she's like going through Lincoln Tunnel and she's like, I can't hear you, but I'm guessing you're confirming for the show. She hangs up and I have 24 hours to come up with 5 minutes of material for the next day for a show. So I'm frantically writing. I invite all my friends because I was like, there's no way I'm performing in front of strangers. And I know you guys laugh at my ridiculous stories. So it was just this crazy, just 24 hours of stress. I have like my brother coming with some of his friends and work friends. It was just the most bizarre mix of people. And then she brings me up pretty early and I performed 5 minutes and it went pretty well for somebody that had no time. And then after the show, I was like, well, that was funny. I'm never doing that again. Maybe I'll write about it. And I'm leaving the club and one of the guys that's a regular there, he's like, hey, can you come over here? And he said, you know, it would have really helped if you had jokes. Well, thank you for that burn as I walk out. But he's like, no, but what I wanted to say is that's all you need now because you've got a funny stage presence because you're completely awkward and weird on stage. And he's like, and your premises are funny as, you know, and people were along for the ride. You just actually need to tell jokes on stage. But he did mentor me a little bit. So he did let me watch his performances and get me in the club so I can watch. From there on, it just went in one direction. And that's how I ended up doing stand-up. It was completely by mistake.
My first paid job was a local radio commercial in middle school. During a production of the musical Annie, I forgot all the words in my solo. And my childhood teddy bear travels with me every time I move.
So I'm trying to figure out if she overemphasized the whole Annie thing to make it sound personal, like it happened, but it didn't. I'm going to let Suzanne guess first.
I'm going to go with the childhood teddy bear thought.
I'm going to go with Annie's the lie.
Annie is the lie.
Yeah.
I was in the show Annie. I played the diabolical Miss Hannigan. However, this girl doesn't forget her lines.
My first job was at Chuck E. Cheese, and I was fired after one day. I worked in Hollywood and got trapped in an elevator with Jerry Springer. And I bartended one night and got $1,000 in tips.
Chuck E. Cheese, I don't know if that's something that they have in Nashville. And I don't know if you would get fired. You seem responsible, just in the way you present yourself. Although I don't know what you were like as a teen, assuming you were a teen when you did Chuck E. Cheese.
I totally believe the Jerry Springer one,
yes,
though. Like
I totally believe that.
I worked in Hollywood too, and the amount of times that you find yourself in a public sphere with some celebrity,
yes,
I can see it. I can see it.
Kelly, go ahead. You could go first. What do you think is the lie?
I think I'm going to go with Chuck E. Cheese. I feel like you could get away with anything while working at Chuck E. Cheese.
Exactly. Who gets fired from Chuck E. Cheese? I'm going with Chuck E. Cheese is the lie as well.
Do we do the drum roll? The lie was the bartending.
What?
I've never bartended. I did get trapped in an elevator with Jerry Springer, and I made the mistake of telling him that I thought he was like really interesting and cool because I thought he was interesting and cool, like in a very campy sort of way. And then he thought I was hitting on him or he was hitting on me, something. The door opened and I was like, oh, wrong, weird vibes. Chuck E. Cheese. I'll tell you what happened there. They were, and this is not probably how it is now, so there's no liability. It's definitely changed, I'm sure, management. But they were putting in cheese, like the shaker cheese, unscrewing it, and then just filling the tops of all of them. And so that meant all the old cheese had congealed and were like at the bottom. And I flagged it. And they were like, you need to let this go. And I was like, I can't let this go. I couldn't. I was just like, this is disgusting. And they're like, okay, you quit or we're letting you go. And I was like, I'm done here. All the shakers and Chuck E. Cheese, it was just like, they weren't, every gross That face was my face. Yeah.
And you were the whistleblower
I was
on
the
cheese
whistleblower. I was like, this is
scandal.
not acceptable. This is not meet hygienic standards.
Good for you. Good for you. I attended the same Catholic all-girls high school in the Bronx as Jennifer Lopez, aka J-Lo, aka Jenny from the Block. My nephew played baby Kevin on TV show This Is Us. My mom and I were pranked by Howie Mandel on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
The This Is Us one is so specific.
I can definitely buy into the J-Lo one, judging by Liz's accent. I'm going to go with my initial instinct, and that is the This Is Us clue.
That was my gut feeling too, because the first one seemed plausible and the last one seemed like maybe that could happen. The middle one, I'm going to go with This Is Us.
Well, you were both wrong.
Oh.
I did not attend the same Catholic all-girls high school in the Bronx as J-Lo. I attended the rival high school.
There it is.
He attended Preston High School, which was the nemesis of St. Catherine Academy, which is where I went. My nephew did play baby Kevin on the TV show This Is Us. And my mom and I visited LA when I was thinking of moving to LA many years ago. And we were at the rental car place. And this weird looking dude comes up to me because I'm getting into the car in the driver's seat. And he said, before you leave, I've got to test you. And I'm like, what? And he's like, what is this for? What is this for? And I'm like, yeah, I know how to drive. Okay. I just we brushed him, we laughed and then we brushed him off. He wasn't getting anywhere with us because we were like, what you're saying is stupid. Like he was asking us to do weird things, pop the trunk, look in this.
Yeah.
And then he just gave up because he could see we weren't buying into it. And he's like, oh, I'm Howie Mandel and I'm doing this for the assistant came over, had to sign a release. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is exciting. When is this going to air? And we watched it and told everyone to watch. Oh, this is when our episode's going to air. And they cut us.
Of course they did, because you didn't buy into what was clearly a stupid prank to begin with.
Well, Suzanne, it has been a pleasure to chat with you and get to learn more about you on Reader Seeks Romance.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a ton of fun, Liz.
And thank you, special co-host Kelly Reynolds.
Thanks for putting up with me. I'm always happy to chat with you.